Alright, a lot of people like this song. I do too. Hey, what the heck?
This is the G.I. Jive, man alive. It starts with the bugler blowing reveille over your bed when you arrive. Jack, that's the G.I. Jive. Roodly-toot, jump in your suit, make a salute. Voot, after you...
So, I bet a bunch of you have been wondering, hey Abe, do you collect records anymore? Do you play music anymore? Are you going to make any more recordings? Well, the answer is yes. But kind of wanted to be a little more creative than that. And you know, people out there have all sorts of YouTube channels where they're posting videos of old records they've got playing, which is really cool. I'm going to do more of that in the future. You know, playing songs that you might not otherwise have access to, that might otherwise be lost to the annals of time and dusty record stores. But other people have done that, and I wanted to do something unique, and so we're going to start a new series now, I hope. I hope this will be a series called Cracked. Where we're going to take a look at some old 78 RPM records and maybe some other records too that have some issues with them. So, we're starting with something simple and not particularly valuable, and I'll show you what some of the things I've learned from record store owners and other people I've met on how to care for, maintain, and even bring back to life some of those fine classics that might otherwise be relegated to the trash heap. So this here is a copy of the G.I. Jive by Johnny Mercer on Capitol Records. And as you can see, if we hold it in the right light, and as you heard just now, it's got quite the hairline fracture extending from the edge, the rim, all the way through the dead wax. And if you're able to see really carefully, it doesn't quite go to the label yet. We'll get to that later. But obviously the way it is right now, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see it at that angle. I'll have to get the... Oh yeah, there you go. You can see there's a bit of a ridge there. And you know, sometimes cracked records, they've got that ridge, and it's really annoying to play them, and it damages the needle a little bit too, potentially, as you play it many times. Just ruins the enjoyment of the record there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and repair that and get it back into prime playing condition. So now, as with any repair, you're going to need a couple of specialized tools for this. And here we have a few of those. So first, obviously, you need your record with the crack. Hairline crack is identified here. You're going to need something to fix that crack. And here, in this case, we're using a pack of 10-year-old super glue. This pack has more than been worth what we paid for it originally. Never expected it to last this long, and half these tubes, well actually most of these tubes except for one, maybe two of them, have never been opened, so they're still fresh. You're going to need a working surface. So in this case we've got the bar in my basement. Actually, this is not really a bar, this is actually a repair bench. The former owner of this home was a high school band teacher for 30-40 years, and he actually built this to repair and store band instruments. So this is, you know, you need a repair bench. And then you need to make sure that the disc in question, which you're repairing, does not stick to the bar top, because, well, obviously fixing the crack but causing another problem would not really make it any more playable than it was before, even less playable. And so you need some sort of surface to ensure that you know, the record doesn't stick to the working surface with the super glue. In this case we have a paper towel, because it works. So with our working surface here, we've got a nice little lamp to provide some working light. And you can see there is a bit of dust and dirt accumulated in the edge of the crack there, so we're just going to clean that off a little bit. Yeah, that's much better. Because you don't really want to, you know, glue a dirty crack. And then what we're going to do here is place the paper towel on the edge here and take the disc carefully and kind of hang it over the edge. So this way the paper towel is not actually, you know, contacting the widest part of the crack here. It's actually hanging off. Make sure there's nothing below it. Take your tube of super glue out. So you take your tube of super glue out, and I'm actually going to use a fresh one because the other ones have been sitting there for quite a while. This one needs to be open still. So see the seal's still good on it. I'll pop that and quickly screw the top back on. Pull the lid off. There's actually a bunch of super glue there, so we got to be a little careful. And then very carefully dabble a bit of that into the groove. Now we also want to make sure that the leading edge, so you know, as the record spins, it spins this way, so the needle travels this way across the record. We want to make sure that the leading edge is a little higher than the trailing edge, if at all possible. And so what I do sometimes is grab a piece of cardboard or a piece of paper, fold it over, and put it under the leading edge of the record, so it kind of hangs a little higher. You might have seen this when I played that Ida Cox record back in the day. Works for playing, also works as a support. And then we very carefully squeeze the super glue out. Oh, see, there it goes towards the tip. And we're actually putting this all the way across the fracture. Very carefully following the fracture line. And as long as you don't put too much in, most of it will actually suck back into the groove, or not in the groove, but rather in the crack. And so repairs the crack pretty well. However, we do have a bit of excess, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a paper towel and wipe that out. So I've got my second paper towel here. And we're just going to carefully wipe that across the grooves. And note that for this particular shellac, it's not sticking very much. So voila, and we're left with glue in the groove and not really anywhere else. Now we just got to let it sit and set for a bit. Alright, so this thing has sat overnight. And while the crack is still visible, it's now stable. Again, I don't know if you'll see this, but you put a little pressure on it, it doesn't move. So let's see the difference. Back over to the record player over here. And Lincoln's watching this one. Well, it's not much improved, but at least the crack's stable now, so maybe we need to add a little more glue to that. Alright, so I've got the record back on my workspace, and we're just going to apply a little more glue down the crack. Go. Now, one thing to note is that eventually there's going to be a little bit of glue buildup there, which a little glue buildup's unavoidable. We could go back with a steel phonograph needle and manually scrape that off, and so after a few plays the glue that's sticking up, the glue that's actually in the grooves, wears down a bit and the music sounds a lot better. So this glue says it becomes, let's see, where's the instructions on this? Do not spread glue with fingers, yeah, obviously. Yeah. Alrighty. And we'll let that sit for another hour or so. So, we've got the record. It's all glued up now, second time. And gonna have to play it a little more to see if we can get that groove a little more even. Otherwise, we're gonna have to go to slightly more drastic measures. So, we go here and see how's it. Oh. Alright, let's try this. Well, that doesn't sound any better. Okay, so I've changed the needle out. This is my better needle. Maybe it'll track a little better. Nope. Well, track better for sure, but still got that clicking noise, and we really want to get rid of that as much as possible, don't we? The solution to this is, of course, to very carefully take the needle of a wind-up machine, the steel needle, and kind of hold it across the grooves as they go past, and stabilize it, make sure it doesn't skip or anything, and you know, slowly get the excess glue out of there until it's worn down to the point where it's just the harder shellac that's in there. Well, I don't actually have a good high quality wind-up player. I just have this thing right here, and as you've seen some of my older videos, it's not really the best in the world. But what I am going to do is grab a fresh needle. That's it, it's a pretty fresh needle. Focus, 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 focus. Okay, well, just assume that that's sharp. Yeah, just believe me that that's sharp. And we will go ahead and scratch that out by hand. We've got our record surface here, and our needle, and the light. And I'm just going to very carefully run this sharp needle that's never been played before over the groove. Stabilize it a little bit there. And I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but we are slowly removing all the excess glue that is in the groove there. And it looks like there are going to be some catching points, just because this thing had been cracked for a little while and played a few times, but I'm going to go ahead and work on this for a while, and then we'll see what we can hear on it. Okay, well, so we still got a little bit of clicking noise on that disc, and unfortunately, even though I could spend more time scraping it or running it through a mechanical player to make sure I got every single groove, that would probably damage the record. And actually the grooves are pretty clean except for the glue, and actually I think there's still a little bit of a ridge there where the crack is. I don't think it was perfectly lined up. You always want there to be maybe a little bit of a descending ridge so that the needle like falls a little bit. You don't want it like popping up every time because that wears the needle down and damages the record and damages the needle. But to have a little bit of a drop off is not a bad thing. And unfortunately, I think the drop off coupled with the glue that's in those grooves, it's going to take a little while for that to wear through. And sometimes that's just the nature of repairing a hairline crack. The upside, we still got the crack stabilized, so the record's not going to split in half or break or anything else further. And hopefully that was educational for y'all. We'll have another episode coming up here soon, and I look forward to seeing you next time on next episode of Cracked.